When my father passed away, everyone in the family already knew how the inheritance would be divided. He owned several apartment buildings, a successful construction company, and investments worth millions. My older brother was certain he'd get the business. My sister wanted the lake house. I wasn't interested in any of it. I just wanted one of Dad's old watches to remember him by. The only person who looked completely out of place at the lawyer's office was Miguel, my father's gardener. He had worked for our family for almost 30 years and quietly sat in the back, clearly believing he was only there to pay his respects. When the lawyer finally opened the will, the room went silent. Small gifts were left to different relatives. But the biggest surprise came at the end. My father's remaining ownership in the construction company and nearly half of his estate were being left to Miguel. My brother slammed his hand on the table and accused the lawyer of reading the wrong document. My sister burst into tears. Everyone started talking at once, convinced Miguel had manipulated an old man. Miguel himself looked shocked and repeatedly said there had to be some mistake. The lawyer calmly asked everyone to sit down before opening a small envelope. Inside was a flash drive labeled, "Play this only if my family questions my decision." He plugged it into the conference room television. My father's face appeared on the screen. He looked directly into the camera and said, "If you're watching this, I'm guessing you're angry with Miguel. You shouldn't be." He explained that 10 years earlier he'd suffered a heart attack while working alone at one of his construction sites. It wasn't a family member who found him. It wasn't one of his business partners either. It was Miguel who had noticed Dad's truck still parked long after sunset. Miguel searched the property, found him unconscious, called an ambulance, and performed CPR until paramedics arrived. The doctors later told my father that another 5 minutes would have been too late. Then Dad said something that made the entire room silent. I offered Miguel money, promotions, even a house. He refused every single time. He said loyalty isn't something you sell. Meanwhile, some of my own children only called when they needed money. No one could look at each other anymore. Dad continued. For the last decade, Miguel visited me almost every day, even after finishing work. He drove me to doctor's appointments when none of you had time. He sat with me after my surgeries. He never asked for anything except whether I was feeling better. The video ended with one final sentence. Blood makes you relatives. Character makes you family. Nobody spoke for nearly a minute. Miguel quietly stood up, wiped away a tear, and said he never expected any of this. Before leaving, he promised to keep every employee working at the construction company because, in his words, your father built this business for families, not for greed. As I watched him walk out of the lawyer's office, I realized my father hadn't rewarded the man who worked in his garden. He rewarded the man who had stood beside him when everyone else was too busy to notice he needed someone.